Hello and welcome to Levels Plus Whenever, episode 154. Got it right this time. We're going to be celebrating Mario today. So much to talk about in relation to that plumber guy. So we'll be devoting this episode to Mr. Jumpman, talking about his 40-year anniversary, looking at all of the games I've played and where I would put them on a ranking, and then getting really nitty-gritty and ranking the platformers of the franchise. But first, I've got a slew of pickups while I've been recovering and finishing my book. So this webcomic, the continued collection 2022 to 2025, is now out on Amazon. I'll throw a picture of the cover up here so you can take a look at it. And there'll be a link in the description for it. Very excited to get that book out. I'm working on Femtendo 87 again, getting rejuvenated to tackle that project. It's a very heavy one, but I'm getting there. We are making progress. So, shirts. Let's start with shirts. I've got a Donkey Kong Bonanza shirt that I got from the Yeti, as well as 3 others. So I've got this Untitled Goose Game one, this other Untitled Goose Game one, and then this one of Chrono Trigger, and I love all of them. They're all fantastic. And then Trails in the Sky First Chapter, which I played a little bit of and I was enjoying, and then Silent Hill F. Just in time for spooky season. Although I don't know when I'm going to get to that. Okay, that's enough of my face. Let's get into the first set of Mario ranking we're going to do in this episode. First of all, let's talk about Mario games broadly. I've got a tier maker, Ultimate All Mario Games tier list, which is pretty much that with additional content that I can't say I fully understand. Splatoon's in here for some reason, despite barely having anything to do with Mario beyond like cute references here and there. But I excluded the majority of the Donkey Kong games outside of the arcade and Bonanza, and Donkey Kong on the Game Boy and Mario vs. Donkey Kong. And because they just feel like they're their own thing, especially when Rare kind of got involved. Link's Awakening has some Mario enemies. I didn't think that really made sense. Tetris is here. All the Smash games are here. They're not Mario games. These Game & Watch collections, there might be a Mario game included, but they're not specifically Mario. Some WarioWare spin-offs I took off. NES Remix I took out. And the Mario & Rabbids games, technically, yes, they're Mario games, but I've not played any of them, so I don't have any opinion on any of them. Mobile games are excluded because I have not played them. Animal Crossing doesn't count. And then there's a whole bunch I haven't played at all. So you can just admire the breadth of how many Mario games there are that I actually have not touched. Wow, there's so many. Alright, so how I broke this down is I have a Super Mushroom tier, which I think are the best of the best. And yeah, it looks like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe got caught in the combo pack up here, so we're actually going to move that down. Because I thought there was a separate one, but there is not. So we're just going to slide that here. One Up Mushroom I think is good to fine, and Poison Mushroom is mid to I don't like it at all. My Vic Play BR put this together, so thank you for that. Let's briefly touch on these, more so the games that are not platformers, since we're going to get into the platformers here momentarily. For Super Mushroom, I think Tetris Attack, aka Panel de Pon, is the best Mario puzzle game in North America and possibly Europe. because they took Panel de Pon, which is one of Nintendo's best puzzle games, and made it into a Yoshi's Island skin. And that's perfectly fine, but I do think that Tetris Attack stands tall compared to Dr. Mario, Yoshi, which I really don't like either of those. And even in comparison to a couple that I think are fine, like Wario's Woods, it's really the best. Super Mario RPG Remake, I think, is better than the original because of the quality of life features it has. I like the 3D visual design a lot more than the 2D one. The arranged soundtrack is gorgeous. It's got a lot of new little mechanical wrinkles to it with the combat that I really like. So that's why it's up here. Super Mario Advance 4 is up here because of the e-reader levels being so interesting and mixing all of the gameplay bits from the other Advance games into it. So you can pull vegetables from Mario 2, you can find the cape from Mario World, so just kind of neat. Mario Golf Toadstool Tour is still the gold standard for Mario Golf titles. I'm eagerly awaiting it coming to NSO at some point for the Switch too. I'm just really wanting to play it again because it's going to probably be a little bit before Camelot gets around to a Switch 2 Mario Golf game. Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, again, like Paper or Super Mario RPG, is a sublime update to the original. It is a remake. The visuals are even better. The soundtrack is even better. Mechanically, it's about the same, but it's just feels better to play in the bit I played of it. So, in my opinion, it's better than the GameCube one. Mario Power Tennis currently is the leading tennis game, in my opinion. I am excited about Mario Tennis Fever, but that's not out yet. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the best Mario Kart game, so it's the one that's up in the top tier. It's definitely the one that's got the most tracks, excessive amount of tracks from the Wii U games expansion pass, plus its own expansion pass. And that in terms of just content, you can't do better than Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Mario Kart World, while a really solid follow-up, has got a long way to go to catch up on depth, at the very least. And we're not going to talk about Donkey Kong Bonanza in the Mario platformer selection, mainly because it is a Donkey Kong game first that has Pauline, which ties it back to the arcade Donkey Kong. So I feel that there's enough Mario connections there to include it here, but it's not going to be in the platformer list because I don't think it's truly a Mario platformer. It's Mario adjacent. For the one-up mushroom, we'll quickly touch on these. Golf introduced a lot of the core mechanics that define what golf video games are and loosely stars Mario in a more realistic style. They renamed the character in Captain Rainbow to Osman, I think, or something like that. But originally this was intended to be a Mr. Video, as Mario used to be known, stand-in. Wrecking Crew, puzzle platformer, pretty solid. I think it's a pretty good game. Wario's Woods is a pretty decent idea for a puzzle game, and it's really fascinating how it incorporates the Mario universe by having Toad be the protagonist, Wario be the antagonist in his sole NES game, Birdo is support. I think the fairy is possibly related to Wanda from Mario and Wario. It's just a wild game. Touch on the carts altogether. Super Mario Kart, Mario Kart 64, Mario Kart DS, all solid entries. I even have Double Dash up here, which personally I'm not the biggest fan of, but I still think it's pretty good. And then the original Mario Kart 8 before it got all the extra stuff in Mario Kart World. A Mario Kart ranking for me would probably be Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, then Mario Kart World shortly behind it, then Mario Kart DS, then probably 64, and then Super, and then Double Dash. I never played Wii, and then I would probably put 7 above Super Circuit. So there you go, real quick. Just wrapping all that up. Wario Land, I don't have any on the Mario platformer list because at that point it became Wario Land, completely separate. Game and Watch Gallery, I only played the first one. They're cute. I think that they're a nice way to remember Nintendo's LCD Game & Watch line. Wrecking Crew 98 is very different from the original game. Beyond Mario using a hammer to hit things, it just is structurally quite different. It's pretty interesting though. Mario Party, I've only really played the first one enough to have an opinion on it, and I think it's fine. Mario Tennis is pretty good for a starting point. Brought Daisy back, introduced Waluigi for good or ill, depending on your opinions. Paper Mario, the original, is the third best Mario RPG in my opinion. Luigi's Mansion is adequate. I thought it was a pretty decent romp back in the GameCube days, but I don't have it anymore. Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga, I got frustrated with the AB thing with the brothers. In comparison to the other Mario RPGs, I feel it's too complicated. Captain Toad is very solid. I've only dabbled with like a couple levels in the Wii U one, and then I played the Switch demo, but it seems fun. It's just not something I'm that gung-ho about. Mario Golf Super Rush was a rushed product. Very funny that they kind of put how I feel about it as the subtitle. Visually weak in comparison to Toadstool Tour. Just kind of aesthetically bland. But the courses are still fun, and I like playing it with my parents. Princess Peach Showtime, I think it's a cute idea for a game, and it gives Peach a leading role that's better than her last one with Super Princess Peach. Certainly less sexist. I just didn't get super hooked on it. And down in the bottom tiers, we got the Poison Mushroom. Donkey Kong Jr. Math is one of my least favorite games of all time. Pinball is perfectly mid. The Lost Levels are devilish and mean to players. NES Open Tournament Golf just has too much visual extra. It's like you have to do something, and then when you click A, you get out of that screen, and then you can swing your club, but you lost all of the information that was there before. It wasn't the right system to make a more advanced golf game. Dr. Mario and Yoshi, I don't think are good puzzle games, and I really don't like Dr. Mario. Wario Blast is fine, but it's like a mid-Bomberman game that they just added Wario in. I don't like the Wario Land games. I don't like Mario Golf N64. I think that the parity between the playable characters in terms of their drive range is way too wide. So, like, if your favorite character is Peach, you're gonna have a real rough time competing against like Wario and Bowser and Donkey Kong, and especially Metal Mario. Not fun. Fortune Street is fine. It's very Monopoly-like, but it's like adds way too many mechanics for me to feel super supportive about it. And Super Mario 3D All-Stars doesn't really bring anything new to the table. It didn't fancy up the games the same way the original All-Stars did. And at this point, it's basically been made redundant because Super Mario 64 is on NSO, Sunshine's coming to NSO, and Galaxy's being re-released in a better way in October of 2025. So, that is just kind of how I feel about Mario games as a whole. Let's switch gears. Alright, we have switched over to Topsters with 28 Mario platforming games, and this includes remakes and ports. So you'll see Super Mario Bros. Deluxe here next to Super Mario Bros., for example. The advanced games that I have played are next to their various games. I have not played Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury enough to feel comfortable replacing it or having it side by side. So that is something I need to get around to doing. And it only includes Donkey Kong Arcade, Donkey Kong Game Boy, and Mario vs. Donkey Kong because you control Mario. That's really the requirement for being on this list. So this is why Bonanza didn't end up on this list, is because it's not a Mario platformer. It's Mario adjacent, as I said. So, what we're going to do is we're going to rank these in order of my preference. And I'm going to go ahead and quickly switch over to my top 111. We'll get the games that I really like at the top, and then we'll kind of hash out everything else. Okay, so Super Mario 64, Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario Odyssey, and Super Mario Bros. Wonder are the 4 games that are on the list that fall into this platformer camp. Off the top of my head, I know that the Lost Levels are currently at the bottom, along with Sunshine, and Sunshine's higher, so that's going to be kind of where the bottom starts. But everything in between Wonder and the Lost Levels I got to figure out. So let's look at something else that I think is going to go near the bottom, which is Super Mario 64 DS. It's not in my bottom 50, but it's a pretty bad port of the game, all things considered. I think that Mario vs. Donkey Kong would probably be next, because I don't like the visual aesthetic of the Game Boy Advance game, and it was a little too slippery to control. So I think that's a good spot for it. New Super Mario Bros. I'd put next. At the time, it was novel to have a new 2D Mario platformer game, but the whole vibe of the new Super Mario Bros. Series just was really generic and flat and uninteresting. I actually don't like many of those games in hindsight. So we're going to go ahead and slide New Super Mario Bros. U into this slot. But we're not going to put Wii, because I actually like some of the levels in Wii, so it's going to go a little higher. I think for me personally, I would put Mario Brothers here. I think Mario Brothers is perfectly fine, especially in its arcade version, but not the most memorable for me, especially in comparison to Donkey Kong. Moving along, so we got a bottom row. Next up, I think out of what's here, Super Mario Land will be next, which I think is a perfectly adequate Game Boy take on the series that is panned out very far, almost too far in some ways. But I like the music, I like the just wild level design and enemy selection that they did, and it introduced Daisy, who's my favorite princess. So I have a bit of fondness for it. Super Mario Bros. Deluxe, I think I'll put here. It's a perfectly fine take on the original Super Mario Bros. On the Game Boy Color. It's just zoomed in a little too far. I do like the extra content that they added. I think that's kind of neat. But overall, I think that it's not as good as the original. I think 35 is where it needs to be. I think this was a cool idea, but you can't play it anymore, so I can't really elevate it much higher than bottom 10, which is kind of where it's sitting at the top of. Mario All-Stars I'm going to put here. I don't really like the way the 16-bit sprites look for All-Stars. They also kind of made them all distinctive in a way, and I kind of wish there was a little bit more consistency among the 4 games than they have. and they don't feel the same. They have a different feeling. So, not my favorite. Super Mario Land 2, I think I'll put next. I think it's quite a bit better than the original game in terms of how it feels and how the aesthetics work, and it introduced Wario, who is very important in the Mario canon now. There's some very fun enemy designs. It's just a little bit too zoomed in. Again, big Game Boy problem for me in a lot of games. And I don't think it just has the same oomph that a lot of later Marios do, or even earlier Marios for that matter. I'm going to put New Super Mario Bros. Wii above Mario Maker. So Mario Maker will go here. I think the idea of Mario Maker is very clever. I never got into the second game because I was kind of upset that they took all the amiibo support out. That was actually one of the nice things about having all of those Smash amiibos. You could then get little mini sprites of all those characters. And they just didn't do that again. They added in the Zelda power-up and 3D World stuff and some more elements and maybe better controls and such, but it just didn't catch me the same way. And I feel like mechanically Super Mario Maker needed more than what it had, and perhaps 2 was closer, but it's still not quite there. I'm hoping for a 3 that addresses some of just the things that I feel are lacking. And the New Super Mario Bros. Wii is good. It is a good game. It is the first game that I would unequivocally say is a good game. But it still has the new generic vibe all around it. It's just not a fave. I'm going to slap both the Mario Advance games that are on this list to these spots. In some ways they're better, especially Super Mario Advance 4 with all the e-reader cards. But visually they're like the All-Stars versions, at least for 3, but worse because it's on the Game Boy Advance. And they added a whole bunch of sound bites that just really are annoying in the grand scheme of things. So I don't think these games are bad. They're solid enough ports of the originals. They're just not the ideal way to play them, I guess would be how I would put it. Donkey Kong can go here. This was a very important game to me when I was very young. I played it constantly when I went to the supermarket. I had a home version on the ColecoVision before I had an NES. So this game just meant a lot to me as I was growing up. I'm going to put Super Mario Bros. 2 next. Another important game for me personally. I feel attachment to it because it's the very first game I bought for myself. I still have that original cart. It's a fun, inventive, new spin on Mario that, if you know the Doki Doki Panic connection, it wasn't a Mario game to begin with. It was what replaced what we call the Lost Levels, which was Super Mario Bros. 2 in Japan. I think we got the better game, obviously. But because it's so distinct from a lot of everything else Mario does, I don't think it is as fun in some ways. I'm going to put Galaxy 2 next. I think the original Galaxy is a little bit better. But I do think that Super Mario Galaxy 2 is great, and I'm so glad that it's getting re-released. Super Mario World is going to go next. This will probably bug some people, but it is not my favorite Mario game. I really feel like Super Mario World loses so much of the creative spark and variety that Super Mario Bros. 3 brought to the table. And it's not as memorable to me. I'm going to put the original Super Mario Bros. Next. Very important game. First game I ever actually owned, along with Duck Hunt on the combo pack. That was the pack-in. super important game in the grand scheme of video games. But in comparison to the games that are ahead of it, I don't think it's as good. Donkey Kong will be next. And I think we've actually kind of lined up the rest of the order. Donkey Kong is a wonderful Game Boy game. One of the best Game Boy games. If it wasn't for Zelda, Link's Awakening, I'd probably say it was Nintendo's best Game Boy game. Just a really solid, fun, inventive way to modernize the Donkey Kong arcade experience and add in all these new mechanics and features. Really fun game. Super Mario 3D World was definitely a killer app for the Wii U. I was really happy with the game when I played it on Wii U. I have it on Switch. I haven't really fussed around with it a whole lot on that system. Probably should, because I do like this game a lot. It's almost top 5. Very fun to play with other people. The way that the game works, the level design is fun, the music is great, solid all the way around. Mario Galaxy. The fact that I'm buying it again is why I'm kind of pushing it up, because I already had it on 3D All-Stars. I had it on the Wii, so this is technically the third time I'm buying a Mario Galaxy. I think that it is truly innovative and did so much right with Wii motion controls, to the point that I can tolerate motion controls. If you know me, I don't like the majority of Wii games because I don't like motion controls for most of them. Mario Galaxy managed to make it more subtle. It's really just to attack that you have to shake the Wiimote around and to launch yourself around. So I'm curious to see how the Switch 2 remasters handle that. If it's like you have to use Joy-Cons to play it, or if you can just wiggle the right stick. Very curious. But I do think, in terms of soundtrack, in terms of aesthetic, the introduction of Rosalina, this whole space, like, it's very close to what I would call a Portal-like experience, where it does something really mind-blowing and can't be replicated again. Really great game. And then, of course, the 4 that are actually in my top 111. Super Mario Bros. Wonder is the best 2D Mario since Super Mario Bros. 3. And just delightful start to finish. Love the vibes of that game. It's super fun. The fact you can play it with multiple players. The fact that you can play it as not just Mario or Luigi, but Peach, Daisy, Toadette, Nabbit, Toads, more, potentially. Oh, Yoshi as well. It's a great, great game. I really like how creative it is. It's what I've wanted since Super Mario Bros. 3 in terms of a 2D Mario. Super Mario Odyssey. What a great follow-up to Super Mario 64. In some ways, just wipes away a lot of my bad feelings about Sunshine. Throwing Cappy around and jumping off of him is a great mechanic. Merging with other characters and enemies to utilize them for puzzles and platforming. Really fun and inventive. I just think it's a really solid game, and it's a lot of fun going through the levels. Too many moons, perhaps. And then the top 2. Super Mario Bros. 3, the game that I still feel best encapsulates what I want from a Mario game creatively. The raccoon's tail in the Tanuki suit, Hammer Brothers suit, Frog suit, all wonderful additions to the power-up arsenal that Mario has. The level design is all over the place. It's got so many different and wild ideas of what a Mario level could be like. Just truly, truly amazing. Really inventive, really fun. It's a game I played to death. So I get a little burned out playing it now, but I do think it's just a marvelous game. I really like it a lot. But the game that blew my mind the most out of all the Mario games is Mario 64. When I got my N64 in 1996, put that in, it captivated me like no other Mario game has, before it or after it. It still is the game I think of when Mario platforming comes to mind. It just introduced how you do 3D so effectively. Camera's a little wonky now. Level design is a little barren in comparison to a lot of later Mario games. But it just is a tight, responsive, super fun game to play despite technical advances and the limitations of the Nintendo 64. It really sold that system for me and still remains a fun game to play even now. When I last replayed it, it was on NSO on the Switch not too long ago. And I loved it. I absolutely had a blast replaying that whole thing. So this is my personal preferences for Mario platformers in order. I feel good about this. I feel like this is a pretty solid lineup. Mario's done a lot of amazing things in 40 years in terms of defining video games. But it's really his platformers that I think stand out as cream of the crop to me in the grand scheme of things. Because there's a few like spin-offs like Super Mario RPG and Paper Mario Thousand Year Door and Mario Golf Toadstool Tour and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. That I think are also top tier, but it's really these games that define Mario, that got him to be the success and long-standing institution for Nintendo. So I'm looking forward to whatever Nintendo's got coming up for him next. That's not just a Nintendo Switch 2 edition of Wonder, which I am looking forward to. They added the Koopalings. I'm so excited. Okay, that's everything Mario that I feel like I can shove into a single episode, which is a lot. We'll be back soon. I've got some other video ideas I want to do for October. I'm going to have to figure out what I'm doing for spooks, because I've talked about Castlevania, and I've talked about Resident Evil, and I've talked about all of my favorite horror-themed games. I'm going to have to really contemplate what that's going to look like for the Halloween episode, but I'll figure it out. Alright, until the next one, friends, take care.